Hi, it's Anne. Thanks for stopping by. We're going to do a fun project today. It's something that can stitch right into the signature of our junk journals, and I don't have a name for it. It's maybe somebody else has done it. There's very little new in the world. So, but for lack of a better name, I'm calling it a double pocket flip. If you have a better name for it, let me know. But what it is basically is a whole page that is turned into a double pocket that flips freely in the junk journal. Let's get right to it. What I've done is I've just assembled a bunch of 8.5 by 11 sheets. Some of them are, from old catalogs. There's some magazine pages. There's a piece of decorative paper. There's obviously a map out of an old atlas and a piece of dyed paper. Any kind of paper you want to use is fine, and any size. Just have it be this the size that you will be using for the other pages in your journal. And I've taken this whole piece of atlas, 8.5 by 11, and I'm insert one inside the other. Now these two sheets would normally form 8 pages in your junk journal. We're going to be sacrificing a little bit of that, but that's going to be okay. I'm going to grab, let me put this way. I tend to put the top of the page on the left hand side when I'm flipping through a signature, although it certainly doesn't have to be that way. And I'm going to paper clip these together because I want some stability in the way they're set up here. All right, make certain that I've got a nice crease there. Set these others aside because we might make some more. And what I want to do is to cut down with these 2 pages that are clipped together. I want to cut right down the middle. I don't trust myself to get that to be an accurate marking, so I am going to bring out my ruler. And this is the 8.5 side, so I'm going to come in and do 4 1/4. And here. Again, you don't have to cut right down the middle. Once you see the technique, you will know that you can cut these any size you like. And I'm just going to lightly mark a cutting line here to the middle. And I'm going to cut, I think I'm going to be a little more accurate using my knife. And I'm going to cut on that line because it's a cutting line. And I'm going to stop right at that center fold. So I'm going through the 2 different sheets, but only on this left-hand side. You can see how this is coming together. And these are our 2 pockets. Let's glue them and ink them. And move my paper clips to the other side. Maybe I should have clipped them on the other side initially. It doesn't matter. We can relax and enjoy this process. Flip this up. So this is going to be the inside of the pocket. So if you have a side that's not so attractive, you can put it there. Now I'm probably going to be trimming off the ends of these little pockets because I want them to be a little bit shorter than the width. Whoops, Anne, you forgot something there. I do want to put a little bit of glue at the bottom. Now your stitching in the signature is going to close up that bottom, but I just like having a little bit of extra security there. And maybe this will be a little more clear. I'll use a double-sided tape if you prefer. We're going to lose a little bit of real estate inside these pockets, but they're pretty big pockets, so we can put a respectably sized journal card or tag in there. And this is it. This is all there is. What I'm going to do is to trim off this side. And I hate to use this beautiful font, lose this beautiful font here, but I want these little pockets, again, to be slightly shorter than the width, because for a couple of reasons. A lot of times, you know, when we stuff our journals, we, you know, the pages can kind of creep out and we have to trim off the sides of them. And so this keeps that in mind. Let me get my circle punch, and we're going to make these into pockets. And you can see how, you know, here on this side, we can take these off now. On this side, we still have our 2 full pages that are on this side of the signature. This has come down to 1. So keep that in mind when you're planning your journal. But put a little bit of a thumb notch here and we'll ink it. And I think with these vintage maps out of this old atlas that I got at an estate sale a couple of weeks ago, I'm not, you know, I talk about going to estate sales all the time. I really don't go as often as it sounds like. I go to, well, maybe I do. I go to maybe one a month during warmer weather. Do I want to? I think I want to trim that down. That atlas page was just slightly bigger than my blue dyed page. And while that wouldn't matter if it was stitched freely into a signature, because these 2 ends are glued together, I do want them to line up properly. And clearly, you're going to spend more time inking on this project than you are on this pocket assembly than you are doing almost anything else. So there's no new ideas in the world. I'm sure it's one that that has been done before, but I don't remember having seen it. So maybe it's stuck in my subconscious somewhere. I think it's something kind of unexpected and kind of interactive to put into, to stitch into a signature. Wherever your glue is coming up, you can go back in and take care of that. And then we're going to fill the pockets, and we're going to practice with doing a couple of other shapes too. Let's see, did I glue this side? I must have missed this, or when I pulled it up, it didn't re-adhere. There we go. There's that side. Yeah, that's all tucked in there. Oh, the colors in this vintage atlas are so gorgeous. They're so muted. I think I got it for, I think it was all of $1. Isn't that pretty? Now let's put a couple of other pages around it so we can kind of get the experience of what it would look like if it were in a journal. Let's pretend we're using this, and it's just a plain coffee dyed piece. There's one. There we go. And I've got a little folder or a little cover here made out of a manila envelope that I covered with packing paper. Did a little collage and pockets on the inside. And this can be already, once I've bulked up the signature more, this can just stitch in just like this. So here we are. Of course, we're pretending that all the decoration is there. Oh, look at this. Here's these little pockets that are flipping all by themselves. You know, we could make them go the other way if we wanted to, stumble across the decorative part first. It's not just decorative, it's also useful. If we wanted to come across the informational part first, I think I like it like that. I like it with the blue in the background. Let's see what it looks like with a few pockets inside. I think I have a master board here. Yes, here it is. And I think this might make this. We do want to be careful that we're have the right size of journal card in there. So I have brought my guillotine over. Seems creepy to call this a guillotine or a guillotine. I've been so interested in reading up. I've been watching the Marie Antoinette series on PBS, and actually went back to reading some old books about Marie Antoinette, 3.5 that way, and I want it to be about 4.5 that way. So yeah, a little creepy to mention the guillotine, but this is what this is called. So there we go. So 3.5 by 4.5. I'm going to do absolutely no planning on this other than cutting. I could make it a little bit bigger, I guess, but I want it to have enough room to slide in and out easily. This is just some collage that I've done on a piece of ugly scrapbook paper, and I put plain paper on the back. So we'll do a couple here. And we will just take whatever comes. I do like the guillotine style of trimmer more than the kind with the little blade that goes in and out. Yeah, that might actually work. Let me get my corner rounder, which is never far away. And we'll do this middle-sized one, perhaps. Things always seem to slide a little more easily. I'll want to do a little bit of decorating on both of these, but for now, looks like I used some of the same dyed paper in this batch. Things seem to slide in a little bit more easily with those rounded corners. There we go. So you can see by trimming it off on this, the pockets off on this left-hand side, there's plenty of room for them to be a little bit shorter than the page behind it. And that way, if we need to come in and do some trimming when our signature is all put together, it's easy to do that. Let me just ink, because this is going to drive me nuts if I don't ink, and put a little bit of a topper on the top, and then we're going to try a different shape for our pockets. Some sort of focal point will get glued onto here. I think it's nice to have a whole page, because this, you know, literally, you know, it's a page that's cut in half and then glued to the page behind it. But I just thought this was just kind of a fun and an easy way to create a little interactive page, a double pocket flip. Is that going to be enough there? You know, I think I don't want to overdo it, so I'll find my glue here and my stapler. If I'm going to staple a tag topper, I usually put a little glue down first on the fabric just to hold at least one side of it in place before I go in and do the stapling. I've kind of been into stapling things lately. I like that little, You know, since we talked about texture the other day, I like that little touch of metal. And of course, you can do it with brads or with eyelets too. That's also a little bit of metal. Didn't get that quite in the middle, did I? Okay, it's still a little bit sticky there. And these are just strips of muslin that I used to mop up after I did a little bit of a dyeing session. And that blue picked up, and I thought, oh, that'd be kind of nice to have that in incorporated in tag toppers. So I like those little splotches of blue. Ouch. Doggone it. I snipped myself there. A little too much coffee this morning. There we go. Oh, I love this. I think this is going to be really nice. I'll put this in my whole stash of pages ready to stitch into a signature. If I can, in fact, slip this in here. And of course, this is really highly decorated, so I'm not going to do any decorating there. I might do maybe a little stamping or something on this side. But that's something I can decide when I, know the whole theme of the journal. Let's do another one in a slightly different shape and maybe opening in a different way. Should we do that? What paper shall we use? I've got this little decorative paper, and I've got one that has a big plant on it. Yeah, that might be nice in a springtime journal. Oh yeah, what the heck? Let's just go ahead and use that. This is not super thin paper, so that'll be nice. You don't want your really, really thin papers, I don't think, for these particular pages, because you want a little more sturdiness in your pocket itself. Yeah, I think I want this on the outside of a pocket. There we go. So I'll fold them this way, because I'm again going to cut my pockets on the left-hand side. And here's my paper clips. So shall we make these just open at the top? Let's start by opening them at the top. And I've got a visual guide with this gingham pattern. So I'm not going to have to draw a line, and I'm going to just eyeball. I'm going to get brave this time. That may be a fool's errand, I don't know, but all right, there is our pockets. Now, last time we had our openings here, but what if we had our openings from the top? And what if we shaped the pockets a little bit? Maybe I'll do an angle cut there. Maybe I'll come in an inch from the top of each pocket and cut an angled, make an angled cut. How about that? I'm going to come in from that center and I'm going to, all right, where's my center? I cannot see. I need to mark that. There we go. I don't want a really deep cut because whenever I have journal cards or tags in freestanding pockets, I don't like being able to read what's on the back of them. You know, that's your writing. That's what, you know, should be kind of private and, you know, that you only see when you pull out. So I don't want a really deep cut that's going to show both sides. That's why I kind of like the pockets that are open from the end, because both sides of your tag or your journal card are covered until you pull them out. But this, I think, will be fine. It'll give us an interesting shape without getting the kind of exposure that I don't want to have. Alrighty then, we want to glue here, here, and here. So I will do that. And we can ink after we glue, because we'll have access to that open top. Didn't get that quite in the right place. Okay, so here, here, and here, 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 and here. I have to repeat those things to myself so I don't accidentally glue the top shut, which has happened before, but guess what? A little trimming takes care of that. And clearly I want to cut off this excess. And there we go. Now let's ink and see how this looks. To be a little bit of bubbling. That often happens. This is kind of a bubbly paper. But once it's in the journal and you've got things put in those pockets, it's going to be, sometimes the bubbling can be put to good use, because it gives you a little extra room in your pockets. You can see why you don't want your really, really flimsy paper here, because, you know, you've got a lot of action, and there's a little bit of weight going in there once you put your cards and your tags in there. But there we go. This looks like, you know, I wonder if I maybe got my cut just a tad deeper than I wanted to here, but that's easily fixed. And there as well. They don't need to lean up, line up on this side. This is another one where I could have cut in, but that's something I can fix later if I want to, because I might not need to take any of that width off of that page after all. Let's see, do you think these would fit in here? Why is my glue not working very well? Maybe I didn't get quite enough put down. There we go. I think certainly I want my tab coming out at a different place. Although that wasn't bad. Why don't I cut a couple more? And we can get that stuffed. And you know, you could even, this is a nice decorative, I might come in with my watercolors and maybe paint a little bit of these blossoms and leaves on this black and white page. I could put another little pocket there, so we'd have a pocket on a pocket, and that might be cute. Let's cut a couple more cards just so those are done. And I think I'm going to go with that 4.5 by 3.5 again. I think that's going to be okay. Over here, my trusty trimmer. That's why handy to always have. I'm going to make it just a little bit because this is going to be the 3.5 is the actual depth. But I am going to stick to the 4.5 here. Set that aside. These are definitely calling out for some kind of focal point to put, but I don't need to take up your time doing that right now because you know how that works. I mostly just want the size, you know, the proper size of things. Stuffing that pocket. It's always handy to have a master board around that when you need some specialty sized journal tags or cards cut, you just have it there. And I do like just putting plain pages, plain paper on the back, even if it's pieced, because you can see lots of the piecing there, but that's all ready for the journaling to go on to. There we go. Let's bring this in again. And I might not put any, yeah, see this, if this is flipped open, you're going to see a little bit of writing there, but not a whole lot. It's not going to be spilling all your secrets. There we go. You could even put on, especially on your bottom one, you could put a taller tag there to kind of keep that, keep those closed. But I think I'm going to keep them similarly sized for now, and these will just go into my stash of pages ready to stitch in. And you know, see, this will be, this is completely intact here, and you can stitch right through that, and it'll be just as secure as any other page of your journal. What a nice little delightful surprise. And then something else will go in the middle there. Let's pretend it's this. You can decorate this side if you want. You don't have to. What do you think of these? I think they're really fun, and I hope you get out some of your standard size journal pages or pages you have cut to be whatever size you like, and start making some double pocket flips. They're fun. We'll see you soon, guys. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.